Be this the great white lamp of the holographic carousel that may materialize out of nowhere. Throughout the great white room, as it were, is a four-dimensional toroid with a super singularity intersecting it within vertiginous equipoise perpendicular. The continual causality thereof rotates through a time loop of eternity. And one of the hypernumbers that would enumerate every cyclical oscillation is the pluriceptiplex. This open-ended numeral is equal to a googolplex multiplied by a googolplex, as if conjectured incalculable. The great white light itself, on the other hand, is but a facet of the vast and enormous ubiquilabirinthelix, that of light everywhere in the hedge maze which has congealed with a walled womb of space-time contiguity. But if one were to gaze through the wormhole of this hyper-hologram 4D toroid, the greater metropolitan area of the impluceptivore Triopolis will have begun to unravel. The unveiled paradise of such an outstretched Dyson ring supercity shall have then been built up in the far futurity of the year 2113. By that time, genetic and anechoic storage silos of the creatorium may accommodate disembodied souls, restored bodily, as opposed to the old, outdated crematorium, formerly designed to incinerate corpses. This is the resurrection incorporated of tomorrow's titanic creatorium that should shortly transpire not long after the new heaven and new earth in the book of Revelation, chapter 21, verses 1 through 3, which resonates as follows. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, Behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and God himself shall be with them, and be their God. Wherefore, with white and yellow light output, this 700 watts quasar beacon outshines the former and latter, though obsolescent. It exceeds the light-emitting diode as a paragon exemplar star of the electroplasmatic spectrum. Rather, its embriocto arc, as it were, is gauged by the fleeting flit of Planck time diminution. Indeed, far briefer than a septillionth of a nanosecond, though ephemeral, yet at the same time eternal in and of itself. Hence, apropos of the great white light aforementioned, the narrowest doorway to a corridor that leads to the hallowed hallways of the ubiquilabirinthelix creaks ajar with one passkey to unlock forbidden and unlawful knowledge in the eyes of mainstream mediocrity. For furthermore, and in excelsior, albeit the grand immaculatorium is about to take cynosure precedence above all the aforesaid examples. The immaculatorium is an immaculate room which is likewise the very great white room at large, and full of screaming silence, where warm creepy cream fudge is quantum foam verily vindicated. The lighted city beyond the six-walled trivia entrances and exits of the immaculatorium is the blindingly bright Luciopolis, an adjunct of the impluceptivore Triopolis matrix, in that this most metalomaniferous supersingularity hyperhologram reveals only a pinpoint cross-section thereof is just the beginning. To rewind to long ago, in the year 1984, it was originally the ultratorium, of which the inception for the great white room effloresced. Then the whole hypersphere intervened, shortly thereafter, with one whopping rotundity of hypercurvature up and down and all around. At first glance, it was christened the avion sphere, and then later Bordium and Cremium accordingly, inter alia. By 1989 and 1990, the Transultratorium, a major character and superpower throughout the Great White Room, dominated the scenario. Sometime in the year 2021 or so, the supernal univatrium big ball of 33 block diameter enlargement entered the scene overwhelmingly. the circumference of which was immeasurable at that moment, except easily deciphered by geometry. Such configurations with the univatrium overhung only a few meters above ground zero, eclipsed all the other visions heretofore. Wherefore, without further ado, make continual causality speak for itself, and let luminous equilibrium hamburger the hedge maze in betwixt both of these, the great white light undifferentiated from the immaculatorium herself, respectively, that is, enter the irreplicable mercury mirror no less, that moreover readily reflects back to our world such naked truth more axiomatic than the contemporary prevarication concocted by rivals, let alone an outworn dogma of primitive prerequisites. Its paramount platform layout consists of the glinolium instead of our conventional linoleum floorboard, filled with a subatomic cosmic cocktail of exotic matter-antimatter manifestation, that of neutronium spray lozenges of an eggshell and tongue and a hyperargyle and hexagonal framework, the invincible glass of vitrification, as supported by biblical backup, offers fiery effulgence of a narrowest wavelength. Indeed, that so glisters forth froth of universality which timelessly predates and outlives the very cosmos itself per se. Within the innumerable transfinite pluriseptiplexity showcase, this brocaded hologram of cyclical oscillation manifests prismatic prominences and ultra-iridescent spicules across every square kilometer of the circumstellar surface, whereupon the solar sections and intersections of our sun's photosphere are all accounted for, every one of them without exception, and that emanate over 300 billion megawatts of energy out into space per second. The sun, our nearby star, which would be the ultimate power plant of both the past, present, and future alike, even so, generates a hot 1 kilowatt per square meter at over 93 million miles away, if harnessed on Earth. An insuperable and stupendous conflagration and starry quarry of finest fusion lay unparalleled in the midst thereof, not to exclude million-degree fissile reactions in the convective and radiated regions. Thus the glutinous spark of a quasar beacon par excellence, I declare in the affirmative, and with radiant refinement over a fallow field. For heaven's sake, introducing the great white lamp of paradise in several hundred nuances of meticulous recollection, revitalization, and lastly resurrection of body, soul, and spirit by none other than Jesus Christ Almighty. Let us prophesy. I say, let there be light. Fiat lux.